everyone. Today is going to be my first video about animals and the habitats that they live in. Everyone should have received an animal habitats book, and you should have already looked at the first 2 pages of the book. On the first 2 pages, we learned that the earth has many different habitats, and a habitat is where an animal lives. We also learned that animals need food, water, and shelter in order to survive. So some animals can survive in certain habitats, but other animals cannot. The first habitat we're going to look at is a desert habitat. Desert habitats are on page 3 of your Animal Habitats little book. And on that page we learned that a desert habitat is very dry because it does not get a lot of rain. And the deserts that we're going to be looking at are very hot as well. So over here I made a little example of what a desert might look like. And right away I notice a couple of things. I notice that the ground is very rocky and kind of sandy. It's very dry. And I also notice that there's not a lot of plants. If I went out in my backyard or my front yard or just looked outside, I would see trees and flowers and bushes that are starting to pop up after the winter. But right now, I'm looking at this desert and I see 2 plants. And that's because lots of plants need a lot of water in order to survive. And so only plants that don't need a lot of water can grow in a desert, like a cactus. Cactus or cacti do not need a lot of water, and that's why they are able to grow in a desert environment. I also see a lot of animals in my desert that I definitely wouldn't see out in my backyard. One of the animals that I see is a camel. So here is a camel, boys and girls. Camels can either have 1 hump or 2. It kind of depends on the type of camel. And those humps are actually one of the reasons why camels can live in a desert. The humps help the camel store water so that it can go a very long time without having to stop and get a drink. Because as you can see, do you see any ponds or lakes or rivers? I sure don't. So a camel would have to go a long time without water, and those humps help it out. I also see a desert tortoise. A tortoise is a little bit like a turtle. And here's my desert tortoise. And my desert tortoise uses his shell to stay cool. There's not a lot of shade in the desert, and so the tortoise can kind of hang out in his shell during the day when it's very hot, when the sun is out, and that's how he can stay cool. Another animal that can live in the desert is the gazelle. Snakes can live in the desert. I know I mentioned a rattlesnake in your book. A lot of the time they'll burrow into the sand when it's really, really hot out, and they'll come out at night. Same thing with spiders. This little guy here is a javelina. Javelinas like to live in the desert. I've actually seen javelinas before. I went to Arizona and I saw a whole little family of javelinas crossing the road one day. And they're about the size of a medium-sized dog, and they really like the desert because they eat cactus. So the desert is the perfect place for a javelina, isn't it? One other animal, and I don't have a good example to show you everybody, but one other animal that lives in the desert is a jackrabbit. And jackrabbits have really big ears on the top of their heads, and they use their very large ears to help them lose heat. So they use their ears to help them cool off when it is very warm out. And that is a desert. Remember, boys and girls, deserts are dry and hot, so the animals that live there need special things in order to survive. So a tortoise uses its shell for shade. Camels have humps on their backs where they are able to store water. Javelinas are able to eat cactus, which grow in the desert. And snakes, spiders, and scorpions, they all burrow under the ground during the heat of the day when it's very hot, and that's how they are able to survive when it's really hot out in the desert. So thank you, boys and girls, for your assignment today. You get to draw the desert around the desert animals in your book. Have a good day, everybody.